Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Power Half Hour Unstoppable Business Owner. And I'm your host, Dorothy O'Dell. Tonight's sponsor of the show is Camaraderie Rescue Mission with their definitely with their fundraising efforts. We are still trying to raise money for our programs to help our veterans and their suicide. 44 veterans a day are dying by suicide. And so we are still here going after it. We finished the 24-hour fundraiser, but we're still going strong. Every dollar counts. So if you could please go to tinyurl.com, hope for vets to donate. Like I said, every dollar does count at this point. All right. Well, I'm super excited. Tonight we have the amazing Mazarine Memon. Sorry. I massacre people's names all the time, and I truly apologize. How are you this evening?
Not bad at all. Absolutely great weather in Toronto, so I'm happy.
I hear you. It's finally quit raining.
Oh, good.
So I am happy about that. So 4 days and I've had enough.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself, Marjane. I mean, you are an amazing person that I've gotten to know just recently and would love the world to know exactly who you are.
Um, I'm a fine artist. I'm based in Toronto, Ontario, but originally from Bombay. And art has always been a passion of mine. So I started off my career in advertising. I did my commercial art or applied arts for a position as an art director in an agency. But then those were the days where there weren't Macs, and you were kind of glued to your desk, and it wasn't something I enjoyed. We were in the Middle East, in Dubai, for a few years, and that's when I just decided that I'm going to quit and become a full-time artist. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm a full-time artist, and I love every moment of it.
I love that. I love that. I say that I'm not really artistic. So my mom has that gene in our family. So I definitely love it when I can connect with artists and see their work. So congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So your work, though, you've decided to transition and do something a little bit different. So please tell us more about that, because I did receive your package, but I'll let you talk about it first.
So, in a nutshell, I used to love people faces, and actually I guess I was competing with the camera. So every time I went out, I'd have a camera with me, and I'd take portraits, and then I would reproduce them on canvas. um, that just bored me. I mean, I loved the skill that went into it, loved capturing faces and people and what their thoughts were. And they always say the eyes are, the soul of that person. But then there was just no connection. I was the only one connected to it in a sense, or people would say, oh, this is beautifully done. But then what happened was, I would say 2002, we were in the Middle East, in Dubai. And obviously I made a few friends and got to know two other artists, and we decided both were brilliant artists, women. One was from Cyprus, one was from South Africa, and I was from India. And we decided that we were all realistic artists, so let's just jump into and do our first exhibition. But we thought we're going to stay away from our style and try and get into something abstract. Of course, for me it was like, oh my goodness, I'm looking at this blank canvas and I go, what am I going to create? I don't have a photograph as a reference point. And then I thought, okay, let me just start with color, because that is obviously something that's going to be on the canvas. And I just started playing around with color and just moving the canvas around. I started using old credit cards, and I pushed and pulled the color around. And then I just left a few canvases, because I think we all said we were going to come up with about 12 canvases, 10 to 12. And then I looked at it and I thought, this is weird. I'm seeing things come up. So let me see how I'm going to go about defining the forms I see. Well, fast forward to now, or at least last year, 2021, and I realized that, there is a term for this, where we see all these familiar shapes and forms and random things like that, and it's called pareidolia. And I had no idea that, looking at the clouds, we'd go and say, oh, I see a rabbit, or somebody sees a dragon. And I thought, well, this is fascinating. So anyway, from that exhibition point onwards, I started creating my work just that way. I would just organically throw inks and, different sort of mediums and just see what comes up. And the fascinating part was people who would buy the works or commission me would say, "Oh, I see that over there," or "I see a tree over there." And I thought, that's interesting. I never put that there. But obviously, they're looking at it with their own perspective, which is great. So it took me about 4 years. And then I decided to create this book, the Mysteries in Color book. And in fact, at my first exhibition, we had somebody who came from the Sharjah School of Fine Arts, and he was just going to have a curatorial talk in the evenings. And he said, "This is fascinating. It's almost like a mystery in color. I can see things happening." There was a whole wall of my red and black paintings. And I thought, I'm going to coin this term, like just this mysteries in color, because it is a mystery till you kind of see it from your own perspectives. And it took me about 4 years to kind of put this concept together. And basically, in a nutshell, this book has it's a very unique play on the conventional coloring books where you kind of color between the lines. But these are all just ink blots. There are about 24 ink blots. And you can see it whichever way you want. And then you see something else coming up no matter how you look at it.
Right.
So that's what happened with this book. And now it's actually interestingly become a tool as a corporate wellness and team building tool. So initially when I thought, okay, I'm going to launch this book, it was really as a new way of journaling for anyone, whether they're artists or not. But I think all of us are creative in our own ways. Whether you're a writer or just a ceramicist or even someone who puts, or gardening or whatever it is. And I thought this would be a nice way to kind of put your perspective on the pages. I'm not telling you what to do. I've kind of done an unfinished painting and then you complete it through your own lens. And but it just kind of fell into the corporate world, and that's where we are at now.
I love what you said, that complete to your own lens.
Yeah.
I love that. I was taking a look at it before we started here, and I'm like, okay, what does it mean if you can't see anything? I'm like, am I weird or what? Because some of them I saw some things, but I'm like, okay, how am I going to draw that? I am the type of person that has to know how to do something and then before I do it. But maybe, when I have time to sit there and enjoy it, instead of quickly trying to figure things out. But that's just how my brain works. So I find that interesting, though, that you use this as team building, because that in itself would be interesting. And how many corporations have you had come alongside you?
Well, we had quite a few because so last year I launched the book in July, and then it just kind of organically just fell into one of these experiences. So I was talking to a couple of people who had IT firms, and they said, we always get these, whether it's beer making or wine tasting, why don't you try and do a workshop with this? And I thought, sure. And since then, we've done a workshop with CAMH. We've done it with Sun Life. We did a couple of workshops in the US where we went in and there were about 30 people in the room and they had a blast. Because the whole concept really is about all of them working off the same ink blot. And from an HR perspective, it's really beautiful to see the diverse perspectives and the collaboration, because you're looking at each other's work and saying, oh, I never saw this. So it's almost like problem solving, but in a very unique way. Right. We also did a couple of them with 2-3 IT firms, and one of them said we're into spamware. So it's perfect because they bought it for their clients, and they said it's interesting because you're looking at the Trojan horses and the worms and stuff that is behind, and this is a great way to kind of say bring in the experts so that we know what to look for. So we've done a few, but this year I kind of took some time off to just rebrand everything because we had some really wonderful feedback. So we are ready to relaunch in all the workshops next year.
Perfect. I love that. Yes, definitely a great tool, for your corporations out there, guys. If, like Mazarine said, definitely team building. It's definitely different because from my perspective, like working for a greenhouse, you would never have thought to bring art into that. But definitely a great perspective, like you said, definitely team building, getting people to talk instead of just talk all about work. So I love that idea. I will take it to my boss and see what they say.
Yeah. And the beauty of this, Dorothy, is that it can be for anyone. I mean, anyone who has, and like I said, we're all creative. So when I talk to people or the teams or the participants in a room, we kind of go around the table and say, what's your creative outlet? And everyone has something. And it's fascinating that what they love doing, whether it's journaling or somebody loves working out or going for sunset bike rides, they somehow tend to sort of project that on the pages. They tend to kind of see, but the beauty of it is also that when they look at it again a few days later, they see something completely different. So it's also where you are at that moment. Like you said, maybe I'm a little calmer. I could kind of open up my mind and see something. So,
Right.
yeah.
I love you said that. I've never thought journaling as an art, but I do that pretty much every day. And well, I am a writer, so I guess there is that as an art. But yeah, that's interesting. I guess I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what three things have you overcome to get to where you're at in your business today?
First of all, the self-doubt, because there's always that, right? You're always that imposter syndrome. And I said, who am I? I'm not a coach. And everyone says, so are you coaching people? I said, not really, but I'm kind of pushing people to see beyond the obvious, because we have such a two-dimensional lens mostly. And I always try, and we've kind of put in this analogy when I was working with my brand strategist to rebrand all of this, that there was this classic analogy of these 6 blind men in a room, and they bring in an elephant, and one touches the trunk and says, this feels like this, and the ear feels. But everyone has their own perspective and the narrow picture. So I'm thinking, well, this is my perspective as an artist. Am I going to be able to explain the bigger picture to people? So
Right.
that was one. The other is I'd never really put a book together. I always wanted to have something published. So that was the other thing. Like, am I going to be able to do this? And the third was when I jumped into putting this in the corporate world, I'd left the corporate world. The whole idea was, I don't want to speak that language anymore. I really don't want to sell anything anymore. But then I realized I just need to be myself. I just need to be the artist, and I need to kind of showcase. So the easy thing after the 3 challenges was, this is a part of my practice. This is exactly how I look at it. I need to now put it in bite-sized pieces so that a person who's really not an artist, how do they see that? That, I have to admit, is still a challenge. I'm still trying to figure that out, where I'm not speaking as if I assume people know what I'm talking about. So that's still a challenge. How do I make this interesting where I'm not just speaking the artist lingo and people get what I'm saying or understand the concept? So, yeah.
I love that. Yeah, because we can get into our own like mindset, right? And with any industry,
Exactly.
right? Because we have a tendency to think that people actually know what we're talking about when they really have no idea.
Yeah.
Because I can talk about streaming all day long, and somebody who has never done it before, like, I have no idea. So I love that you said that. It just brings that back to, you don't really have to stay in your lane. You just really have to find out how that person
Yeah.
understands, right? And just go with that. So I love that. And what 3 things do you help your clients overcome?
So one is just pushing through the barrier of feeling that I'm not creative, where they feel, the first thing is like, just think outside the box, just relax and let your mind go, because unconsciously we doodle a lot. All of us do. I mean, in a meeting. And whilst I was creating these workshops and the framework of this workshop, I was, of course, doing a bit of research and seeing how doodling helps. And it's proven that doodling does, help you focus. It reduces the stress levels. But when you're told to do that, it suddenly becomes like, oh my God. So when they open up the book, oh my God, I have to draw, I have to paint, and I have to keep reminding them it's not about artistry, it's about creativity. So just let it go. The second most important thing is there's no judgment, to assure them that anything that you create, as long as you can define it, you can show what you've seen to others. So if somebody says, oh, I see a one-legged frog, well, if you've kind of defined that, even if it's with a color pencil or just sketch it out or just outline it, here's the leg of the frog. This is, I mean, there's no judgment. So these are the two things where I feel that once, and we tend to do about 2 ink blots in each session. So the second one, it's that aha moment, like, oh, I get it now. And then just the non-judgment, knowing that, yeah, I don't have to create anything perfect. The fact is I'm showing what my perspective is. So that's sometimes can still be a challenge. I still have to kind of, we're going to play some music. We're just going to relax and don't worry about it. And you don't have to kind of work that way. You're sitting in a group, exchange ideas, talk to your person, hold up the page, turn it around, like squint your eyes, just so sometimes people have like held it under the table and gone, oh, now that the shadows are there, I kind of see something that wasn't there when the light was bang on top of it. So I do get that, but it's getting better.
I love that. Yeah, because I can see it in the clouds, all day long. But when I try and think, okay, now I got to really define that, I'm like, oh, but I guess that's part of, I guess, the perfectionist side of me coming out.
That's the thing.
Because you want it to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be. And that's what's so great about what you've done here. You've taken art to a whole new level, and let the people see what they see instead of telling them what they need to see.
Yeah.
I love that. Truly love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what made you decide to go from Zimbabwe to Canada? Like that's quite the adventure.
I don't know. There was always this I don't know. We just decided to. We just thought, why not? Why not try it out? I have to say, though, we were actually in the Middle East. After we got married, my husband and I, we decided to go to Dubai because my mom was working there. And we thought, let's spend a couple of years there. But our neighbor said, oh, I'm having a book sale and I know you love books. Why don't you come over? And I thought, well, are you heading off back home? And she said, no. We've decided to put in our papers for Canada and we're going to go. Ironically, and then my husband goes, why don't we try? I mean, Dubai can never really be home because unless you own something, and those days it was still kind of turning around where you can buy property. But at the time we were there, you were an expat. Ironically, we got our papers through earlier and then that couple kind of came and stayed with us. But it was that got us rolling. And we said, well, do you want to go back home? Let's just try. And we got in. And so we thought, okay, let's just go. But it was one of the best decisions we've made, I have to say. It's such a beautiful country, and my whole family is here now. So my mom and my sister, my brother, everyone's here. So it's lovely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And most of us Canadians want to flee and go somewhere else.
Well, see, Bombay, you never see seasons. So this is beautiful in a way. I have to say, I saw snow for the first time when we landed. And everyone said, oh, summer is beautiful in Canada, but we decided to come here in November because we thought, let's get rid of the snow first and see how bad it's supposed to be. So no, after that, I kind of look forward to the seasons. It's nice.
They are pretty. Fall is my favorite. What's your favorite so far?
I keep toying with fall and spring because, I mean, living in a home and you have your backyards and your gardens, and when you see that coming, I'm like, oh my God, yes, I'm waiting to open up the furniture. I'm waiting to sit out. But then I drive through in the fall and I see the colors. I'm like, oh my God, this is beautiful. So I can't quite make up my mind. I think spring still trumps over fall, I feel. Yeah.
My two are spring and fall, and I guess fall because I love the different colors, like when everything changes color. You couldn't tell from a lot of my wardrobe, but I do like color. My husband's like, oh, I want the gardens all green. I'm like, no, there has to be some kind of flowers or something in there. But I get that, and being married in the fall, was nice. But yeah, awesome.
It's surprising. I don't find anyone saying, oh, I love summer. Surprisingly, because fall, okay, then winter's coming up. And I thought, oh, summers are so beautiful. But it's strange that we keep like going between fall and spring as opposed to,
Exactly. Exactly. So what's next then after you get your after you get your rebranding out there? Oh, and when do you think you'll have that out there
It's
for
all done. So we are
it's all
now
done?
going to be setting out, booking a lot of these events for next year. There are a couple of companies that want, I think, two workshops prior to the holidays starting, just almost like a fun wind down sort of an evening, more not necessarily corporate, but almost like a wine and cheese, kind of a stress free Friday afternoon sort of a thing. So we're kind of doing a more of a fun holiday workshop as opposed to a very corporate workshop.
Right.
And also, I have got now four new facilitators who are also working in different parts of the US and Canada and the UK and Cyprus. So they are planning more social events with their communities and stuff before jumping into the corporate. So that's the plan for the rest of the year. But yeah, we are booking up a lot of things for the next year. Yeah.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. And so it's so great to hear companies that are so forward thinking, right?
Mm.
I absolutely love that. So yeah, perfect. Well, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
awesome. Totally awesome. And do you have any plans to go back to traditional art, like your portraits and things?
Not traditional, but since that year in 2002 or 3, I have continued with this mysteries and color way of working. But ironically, no, I'm still doing my own practice. I just haven't done much this year. But strangely, talking about color, my work moving forward is going to be colorless. It's all black and white. So I'm going to leave all my color and my ink blots and my practice to my business part of it. But all my new work, which is another thing I've been working on rebranding, my own collection of art, which is called Metamorphoses. And I'm using the butterfly almost as an iconic image in all the works. Uh, because I kind of, when I was rebranding, wanted to kind of brand how I want to see the world and how I want people to connect with my work as well as if they take a workshop is we always say, oh, nothing's black and white. And yet you're kind of quick to jump into a judgmental kind of a, your positioning is you kind of, we're kind of judgy. We have an opinion without really seeing what the in between is or what the story is. So my work is going to be black and white with a lot of grays in between. So there'll be these emergence of butterflies coming up, but it's always going to be like, what else do you see? What is it that signifies? Or how do you connect? Or what's your perspective on this? So that's where I'm at the moment. So that's launching next year too.
I love that. I love the whole butterfly theme.
Mhm.
I have this theory, and not everybody agrees with me, but it's funny because after one of my family members or somebody have passed, I always see butterflies. And my dad, the week after I got back to work after my dad passed away last year, I seen this like monarch just coming right at me. I usually go for my walks at lunch, and he was just coming right at me. And I had to duck. I'm like, I ducked for a butterfly. Imagine that. And all I said was, I know that's my dad. He's just trying to get my attention, right? And so I had, you know, sometimes we have our conversations with our relatives, even though they're not here. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
said that. I said, that was you, right? And he goes, well, of course it was, right? So it's just so I loved how you said butterfly.
yeah. Yeah.
I
I don't know,
love
I was
that.
just drawn to it. I just felt, and you're right, I started seeing butterflies in my backyard, the little white ones. And of course, read Kafka's Metamorphoses, his book, where the guy turns into this weird, strange insect. And I thought, how fascinating that we look at this beautiful, the end of the journey, this fascinating journey from where to where, um,
Mm-hmm.
and everything in between. So yeah, kind of, I want to keep the messaging very similar to what the messaging is with the book
Mm-hmm.
and the concept of the book. So I just wanted to kind of make sure that this is all me. So if
Right.
somebody sees my art as well as this, they know that, oh, this could be this because this makes sense, if
Right.
that makes sense to you.
Makes sense to me. I love every bit of that. Wow. That is, you've definitely opened my eyes to a lot of different things here in the creative world. So thank you for that. And do you have any last words for our guest today? Like any tips or anything, or any last words that you'd like to say?
I would just say, I think we should all just live creatively, because I think, if anything, the last 3 years of the pandemic, and that's the reason the book came out at that time, is like we've all managed to turn our lives around so beautifully after the first initial shock of, oh my goodness, how are we going to do this? So
Mm-hmm.
right from schools to families, to whether it's cooking or sharing recipes, I mean, we all just opened up all our creative minds, and uh, we've moved on.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel that it's such an important part of our lives, and I don't think we should mix that up with, oh, I'm not an artist, because it's nothing to do with creativity. I think it's just how you look at life, and how you can shift your perspective from, you know, this way of thinking would be, I think that's all I would have to say.
Right. Love that. Love that. And where can people reach you if they want to get a hold of your artwork or one of your books or
I'm
any?
on LinkedIn as well as on Instagram, and LinkedIn has all my other links on the book, as well as my own art website. And yeah, I share a lot of thoughts and blogs and stuff based on everything that I do. And
Awesome.
Instagram has all the links, anyways. So it's Mazarine Memon on Instagram, and it's also Mysteries in Color. So there are two Instagram accounts, but my name is enough. Yeah.
Perfect. And all that information is in the show notes, folks. So definitely, connect with Margine. Absolutely. It's a great way for you to connect your people in your business, just like Margine said, having fun and just connecting and being a part of different creative outlets. So I love all that. So thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
So much.
Uh, we appreciate you. And don't forget, guys, be unstoppable in all that you do. And we'll see you next week, same time, same channel. Bye for now.